Imagine spending hours walking beside someone, talking with them, sharing a meal with them, and only afterward realizing who they really were. As strange as that sounds, one of the most fascinating stories in the Bible begins exactly that way. A few days after Jesus was crucified, two of his followers were walking from Jerusalem to a village called Emmaus. They had spent years listening to Jesus teach, watching him perform miracles, and believing he was the promised Messiah. When Jesus was arrested and crucified, it shattered everything they thought they understood. They still loved him. They still believed he had been sent by God. But what they couldn't understand was why this had happened. If Jesus truly was the Messiah, how could this be part of God's plan? Why would God allow the Messiah to suffer? Why would the story end this way? The man they had followed for years was gone, and now they were left trying to make sense of everything they had witnessed. The two men couldn't understand how any of it could be true. As they walked along the road discussing everything that had happened, a stranger joined them and asked what they were talking about. The two men stopped in their tracks and looked at him in disbelief. One of them replied, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who doesn't know the things that have happened there these last few days?" The stranger simply answered, "What things?" So they told him. They told him about Jesus, about the miracles he had performed, about the crucifixion, and about the reports that some people had seen him alive again. The stranger listened carefully, and as they continued walking down the road, he began explaining things in a way they had never heard before. Questions that had troubled them for days suddenly seemed to make more sense, and although neither of them could explain it, they felt as though a weight was slowly being lifted from their shoulders. Yet somehow, they still didn't recognize who was walking beside them at that moment. By the time they reached Emmaus, evening had come. The stranger appeared ready to continue on his journey, but the two men insisted that he stay and share a meal with them. As they sat together, he took the bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them. And in that moment, everything changed. Their eyes were opened and they knew him. The stranger who had walked beside them for hours, listened to their fears and answered their questions was Jesus himself. What's fascinating is that Jesus could have revealed himself the moment he stepped onto that road. Instead, he chose to walk with them first. He listened before he answered. He taught before he revealed himself. And he stayed with them long enough for them to understand. Years later, Luke recorded their reflection on that journey. Did not our hearts burn within us while he talked with us by the way? Only after they recognized Jesus did they understand why that conversation had felt so different. And maybe that's what makes this story so relatable. Most of us have seasons where we're carrying questions we can't answer, disappointments we didn't expect, and plans that didn't turn out the way we hoped. There are moments when life feels uncertain, when we're trying to make sense of what happened, what comes next, and whether anyone truly understands what we're going through. The two men on the road to Emmaus felt that same uncertainty. They spent hours wrestling with questions they couldn't answer, never realizing that Jesus was walking beside them the entire time. The truth was that they were never alone at all. And maybe that's the reminder this story leaves us with. There will be seasons when life doesn't make sense, moments when the road ahead feels uncertain, times when we ask the same question those two men asked on the road that day. How can this possibly be part of God's plan? Yet the story of Emmaus reminds us that God's plan is often bigger than what we can see in the moment. The two followers couldn't see how the story could possibly continue. And while they struggled to understand what God was doing, Jesus was walking beside them the entire time. As Jesus later promised his followers, "I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." So when life feels uncertain, when answers seem far away, and when you feel like you're carrying your questions alone, remember the road to Emmaus. You may not understand everything God is doing, but that doesn't mean he isn't there. Sometimes the truth is exactly what those two men discovered on that road. You were never walking alone at all.